to talk Packers 49ers today. I don't know. It can get much better than this until the postseason. I think there's going to be a playoff environment to some extent when we play the Vikings at US Bank, but this one's an important one. We talked about it today as it's not the be all end all. The Packers can lose this game and be fine. They can win this game and not be fine. They need to continue on throughout the season. However, we all know coming off the bye, we haven't seen Matt LaFleur come off a bye before. This is his first year, rookie head coach, facing a former mentor, and he talked this week about how much Kyle Shanahan had meant to him, how much he had learned from him. And we just know this is going to be a big one. Of course, then you got to talk about the schedules. This is a Packer team that can sit atop the NFC right now. And I did not expect this to be the case. However, that's exactly where this team finds itself, the bye coming, I think, at the right time. Some would say we could have used it closer to the middle of the season. I don't think losing the Chargers game had anything to do with the lateness of the bye week or tiredness of this group, So I think we should have won that one anyway. To be quite honest, if we had showed up, we would have at least had a chance. Then we make it all the way through to this 49ers game. I think we needed this break now, coming back healthy. And we talked about the injury report this morning. The Packers basically held some guys out on Wednesday, basically just to rest them. A couple just notes. I think Martinez was limited with his hand still. And Devontae Adams with the toe still showed up. But this team is as healthy as we've seen it in many, many years right now. Let's keep it that way, number one. And number two, let's see if this can benefit us in the W column, because we're playing a 49ers team that is really banged up, with Staley likely out, Dee Ford likely out. And Deebo Samuel lands on the list. Emmanuel Sanders re-injured his ribs in the Cardinals game. And they just look like, and they've already had their bye week. We've talked about how this is a potential opening for sending the 49ers into a tailspin, because they have a difficult task ahead. They were barely able to beat this Cardinals team. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I did review that game in preparation for today. I do think there's an opportunity here for the Green Bay Packers to get a win for sure. Of course, the big news this week, Aaron Rodgers coming out and saying, listen, the way I look at it, we've got to win one there. Why not do it now? If we don't beat the 49ers now, we are likely going to have to travel. They look like they're going to be vying for a 1 or 2 seed. And the Packers might end up with the 2 seed in that scenario still. I think, for my money right now, I feel like the Seahawks are going to be heavily involved in this playoff run as well. I haven't looked at their schedule. I might actually do that. But but Rodgers is right. Beat them there now, and they may have to travel to Lambeau Field. So this morning's Facebook Live show, I entitled, "Let's Make Them Come See Us in January." And I think that would be a huge benefit. We talked this morning, when we travel to San Francisco, other than the time differential, the weather is going to be beautiful. The weather is going to be a benefit for both teams. But when teams travel to Lambeau in January, it's a benefit for the Packers and the Packers only, because teams are coming out there, and oftentimes, equipment isn't quite right. They don't quite understand how you have to play if it's snowing in particular. But when it's that cold, it's a very different mindset, very different way to play football. Those of you that have played in the snow know it is a very different. Your footwork has to be different. And the Packers do have an advantage. But just basically, it's a home field advantage in the sense that you really and truly at Lambeau Field feel like you are in enemy territory, because even the weather is against you. And there are very few teams that understand that, except, those that travel basically to Lambeau Field, because, Detroit's in a dome. US Bank is a dome. Soldier Field and Lambeau Field are basically those couple of places. And then, of course, you got the Bills and whatnot. But there's no place like Lambeau Field in December and January. And this game could be a gateway to December and January at Lambeau Field. Now, of course, we know moving forward, we have a couple of games that you would say we should win. We should beat Washington. We should beat New York. And then you've got a run of, NFC North opponents. These right now, you could say we should beat them because we've already proven that we can. We've already done it. And However, there are no guarantees. When you're playing in division, it's a much different scenario. And then also, of course, the Packers having to play at US Bank is the one we're all circling. So anyway, Rodgers, comment I posited this morning. I think that was, Rodgers chooses his words carefully. That's been kind of well documented. He will not be prompted to make statements about where the team is at. However, when he feels like they need to, he is not afraid to open his mouth and be a leader in that regard. He does it subtly. I like the way he does it. I'm sure he stands up in front of the locker room from time to time also. He's talked about that, pulling guys aside. He's talked about, having meetings, player-only meetings. But this statement, I believe, is Aaron Rodgers' statement for the season right now. That if this team comes together, beats the 49ers right now, that they will be playing at Lambeau Field. And I feel like he's putting his stamp on that, to be quite honest, because Aaron Rodgers, we know what Aaron Rodgers can do when he takes the team on his shoulders himself. And he does not have to do that. If this team performs the way it's capable of, Aaron Rodgers does not have to carry this team anymore, and yet he is still capable of doing that. He's done it from time to time this year. He's done it a series. He's done it a series here, a series there. But he hasn't had to do that. And it's been a major benefit to a team that he is very pumped up about, an offense that he seems to enjoy running, and a team that he seems to love to help into success because he knows that he's going to be more successful with that. And it's just fun to watch. And this weekend, this Sunday, just becomes so important. And I know, there's going to be a certain amount of trepidation on my part, at least, because in the back of your mind, you always wonder if they're going to lay another egg like they did in the Chargers game. I don't see that. I really don't see that. In fact, I see a more opportunity of them coming together in a way that they haven't in a long time. They have to galvanize. They're going to be traveling. It's going to be at Levi Stadium. It's not home. Lambeau Field crowd is not going to be there. There will be, I think, plenty of Packer fans, but it's just not going to be the same. So if I'm right about Aaron Rodgers' statement, I think he understands that this is the key moment of the season. This is the turning point. This is the watershed game for a Green Bay Packers team. It's got all the earmarks of it. By standing, these two teams are the two best records in the NFC right now. And the 49ers, however, have had a lighter schedule. The Packers are fear no one. They're nobody's underdogs out there, as Mike McCarthy once said. This is a team that has seen every good duo of pass rushers the league can pretty much throw at you, at least in the NFC. And they will not fear, especially a 49ers team, if their Sans D Ford will be very interesting to watch. Good protection unit. A good protection unit that had, obviously had a major struggle in the Chargers game. That's a game that I almost, feel is an anomaly. I feel like David Bakhtiari coming back feeling better, and Brian Bulaga coming back healthier, and Elton Jenkins coming back rested as a rookie who has gone out and through 11 weeks of NFL football has performed admirably, to say the least. Bodes well for the Packers' chances because you got Aaron Rodgers behind center, a center who is also playing at basically a Pro Bowl level right now, playing very well. And again, this is a team that does not have to rely on Aaron Rodgers in the way that it has in the past, and it's healthy. Basically, the only, Vegas sees basically the home field advantage as the difference in this game, a 3-point difference right now. I would expect if some of these guys are ruled out, we didn't talk about Kittle. Kittle may be ruled out of this game, not participating in practice again. Depending on the injury situation and who is able to play, I would suspect that number might move a little bit. And the Packers go in offensively. I kind of took as my touchstone the 49ers game against the Cardinals. And I know many of you watched this game and the crazy ending the way it happened that kind of blew the Vegas odds out of the water. So some betting people that bet correctly, I'm sure, had a benefit there. Others, not so much. But you take that last 6 points out of this game, and this was a Cardinals team that should have won the game. They give up the touchdown late after their defense gets them the ball back. They stumble. This is a team in the Cardinals that basically the last 4 minutes played soft zone. kept it all in front of them, tried to keep it in bounds. They did everything statistically the way that you should do it. They played the probability. And in the fourth quarter, they're up 19-17. By the end of the game, they're still ahead by 3 points. And that's when they start playing a soft zone. Craziness ensues, and they end up losing a game that they should have won. Now, obviously that would have been a benefit to the Packers. Then we would have been playing for a leg up to the 1 seed or a tie without the tiebreaker, but a tie nonetheless, rather than, where we're at right now. But this is a beatable team right here. The Cardinals have a pretty good offense. And I've got some stats down here that I want to tie, in terms of, you look at the 49ers defense, it's a decent defense, but Kyler Murray was 24 of 33 for 15, and had 2 touchdowns in there, 24 of 33 for, I forget, 215 yards. I didn't write it down right. But he also can run the ball. Aaron Rodgers can run the ball. Now, he's no Kyler Murray in that regard, but Murray rushed for eight times for 67 yards. He had an 8.4 yard average and a touchdown on the ground. Now, that tells you basically, and this Aaron Rodgers knows, when the defenders' backs are turned, if they want to man up on us, and they're going to have plenty to struggle with when you got Davante Adams on the field. You got MVS with 4.3 speed, and potentially a Jimmy Graham, Mercedes Lewis, or if we go a 2-back set with 1 tight end, there's a lot to deal with on this Green Bay Packers team, and more so than Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Fitzgerald had a handful of catches in this game, not too much. But Aaron Rodgers, I expect, will have at least 2 critical first downs that extend drives in this game. I think he's going to also have one of his classic Aaron Rodgers, nobody else can do it, throws in this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't go to Davante Adams with the pressure, these under pressure, off platform, out of balance, footwork not included, type of Aaron Rodgers throws. I expect we're going to have one of them. I don't necessarily expect it to be at the end of the game or for the potential win. If we can get that kind of thing early, this offense gets going early, this offense can roll on the 49ers if they're sans D Ford in particular. They have not met a group of wideouts. And listen, the Seattle Seahawks kind of took them apart. They're good. They're very good. They're DVOA wise, they're like number 1 in the league in pass defense. But we all know it's time, and the Packers have been a team that has helped teams regress to the mean who are up front type of teams like the Chicago Bears, teams like the Minnesota Vikings. This is another team that statistically, as soon as the competition starts to level up for these guys, number 1, they take their first loss to the Seattle Seahawks. That's the best team they played so far. And they've had a run of teams that just don't have it, and that's all there is to it. Packers are not that type of a team. If they're focused and they play, and Aaron Rodgers' statement gets them ready to go, and this defense bounces back a little bit. Another guy that we didn't talk about injury-wise is Zadarius Smith, I've mentioned, because a couple weeks back he was coming off the field at least once a game with injuries, and him getting rest, Preston Smith getting rest. These guys understand what it takes in an NFL season and how long it can be. Now, however, many of them have not done the postseason run. But that's what guys like Z and P were brought here for. Our rookies in Darnell Savage and Elton Jenkins, I think, playing through to week 11, and then having the bye week 11, coming back week 12, gives them a pretty solid hard reset that is going to, I think, be much needed, because we're talking about playing, into February is where we want to play. At any rate, what else did we see here? Kenyon Drake ran the ball 16 times for 67 yards. That's a 4.2 yard average. Either Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams should be close to that, I think, by the end of this is a defense that statistically is not as good against the run. That's why most people are saying, stop the run defensively. The Packers need to stop the run, which I always say, how do you plan to do that has more to do with it. I think stopping the run, we might be able to do a little bit more base. If Kittle in particular doesn't play, we could go a little bigger. I don't think we have to go with like 5 bigs like we did at the end of the Chargers game, which did not work. But I think, you could go a base with Gary involved, maybe as a down lineman. and bring in B.J. Goodson. I think we'll get a chance to see Oren Burks, but it just doesn't seem like the team is confident in him. Goodson would be, a nice compliment to Martinez in the ground game. And then, of course, Ibrahim Campbell coming in when we need him as well. This team defensively takes the 49ers to third and longs, and it could be a long day for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he threw some errant balls. He had 2 interceptions. I've got his stats here. The big stat line is he's 35 of 45 for 424 yards, 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Well, the 1 touchdown was when the Cardinals, all they needed was a defensive stand, and they were going to win that game. They were playing for a tie. They were playing for a field goal. They had the field goal line graphically laid out on the field and everything. And a defender falls down on a slant across the middle, and I believe that was the linebacker, falls down, and it ends up being a touchdown. And Jimmy Garoppolo goes, but he also threw the series before, threw the interception that should have been the game. All the Cardinals had to do was go ahead and have a 4-minute drill, run out the clock. I think this sort of situation can very easily happen for Jimmy Garoppolo. You turn that ball over to Aaron Rodgers, and it's not going to be that. It's not going to end that way. It's not going to be pretty. And if that kind of situation comes earlier rather than later, and I said this morning, I stand by it. I believe the matchup is there for the Packers to actually win this one handily. I think if we get to a fast start, I think our defense is going to come ready to play. But I want to talk about that because, defensive needs, you got to stop the run. Absolutely. How are you going to do that? I already talked about that. I think I suspect Mike Pettin will, play a little bigger because, to stop the run. And I didn't mention, the injury situation. We don't know who's going to be running the ball for him, so it's going to make it a little more difficult. But I think we can stop the run. And once we do that, these third and longs are going to be really tough for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not that mobile. He tends to throw interceptions. He threw 2 more. I think he's responsible for 14 of their 18 turnovers or something. He puts the ball on the ground. His ball security is not good, which feeds in. This is, again, a matchup that it feeds into exactly what the Packers have been trying to do all year. And to some extent, there's been some angst over the way that we've been doing this, punching the ball out and stuff like that, because we have tended to miss tackles in the open field. Well, we need to get that shored up. But as far as Jimmy Garoppolo is concerned, back in the pocket there, watch for Z on his backside to strip that ball out, get a strip sack, or Kenny Clark up the middle. We got Preston Smith. I would hope at least to see more of Rashawn Gary than Kyler Fackrell in this one. Fackrell's good rotationally. He's going to get his reps, but I really think it's time for Rashawn Gary to take the mantle. And I hope he did some studying of his own film because there's definitely work to do, but he's definitely making an impact in pretty much every way in terms of the run game, but except for the sacks. He hasn't gotten the sacks, and we want to see him get that. Obviously, he has the length, he has the athleticism, he has the speed to do it, just has not been successful thus far. Alexander says, your audio video is really good. Do you mind sharing tech setup? Yeah, I can do that real quick. It is just a Logitech C920 camera, blue snowball microphone, key light, and I also audio wise have a cowl over top, which, I need to put up. I have a video of that for my patrons, by the way. So you guys, I need to put that up for you. I got to figure out how, because it's a 360 video. And then I have a little slide screen, which isn't slid lighting here. So there's the, little show break today. And that is the setup, basically. A Vizio television monitor and then a secondary monitor here where I have some stats, because I want to talk for our folks, our patrons, about some players that need to bounce back in the second half of the season. I know it's not technically the second half, but this is the watershed game. This game against the 49ers is clearly the watershed game of the year right now. It is that because of the way this team has performed thus far, going 8-2, 4 of those games without Davante Adams, I want to say. I could be wrong about that. But players that need to perform, I mean, we've got a couple, and I picked 4, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. Offensively, Geronimo Allison is on my list. The reason Geronimo Allison hits this list is partly by virtue of his position. This is not a guy the Packers are going to split out wide all the time. He's been playing a lot in the slot. He's considered our slot wide receiver. He is not a traditional slot wide receiver. We don't have a traditional slot wide receiver. So you need that guy to perform, and it's made it difficult for, guys like Allen Lazard, guys like Jake Kumerow, guys like even Marquez Valdes-Scantling lately. When you're playing two perimeters, and now that Davante Adams is back and Geronimo Allison is locking down the slot position for the most part, not on every snap, he needs to perform. That's a necessary position. And here is his game stats through the first part of the regular season. I'm looking for against the Vikings. So I guess he didn't. Where's the Bears game? That's what I'm looking for. But anyway, Vikings 4 catches for 25 yards. Broncos 1 catch for -1. Eagles 3 catches for 52 yards. And again, that was the game in which Packers offense was really rolling, other than the red zone, which is, it's points that win championships. Cowboys 2 catches for 28. Slot wide receiver, really? Lions 3 catches for 40 yards, and that's a 13.3 yard average. Long of 21, though, so there's the bulk of that right there. Raiders 4 catches for 33. Chiefs 1 catch for 7. Chargers 2 catches for 21. Panthers 3 for 6. This is not a guy that's really making a difference. Now, we did see during the games that we didn't have Davante Adams. This is a team that had to spread the ball around more, but you want to have him. You want your slot wide receiver catching at least 3 or 4 balls, and I would say more like 5 or 6. Now you got Davante Adams back again. That's going to take some targets off of some of our receivers without a doubt. But Geronimo Allison, his name is not that hard to pronounce. Geronimo Allison needs to perform. Let's see. So far, 2016, he had 12 receptions for 202 yards. 2017, 23 for 253. And then last year he had 20 receptions for 303. That's a 15.2 yard average. Right now he's averaging 9.2. So there's your big difference. Now you don't expect the guy to have a huge amount of receptions based historically, but now the position he got paid. He got paid. He has been playing the slot wide receiver. That's a guy that should get targeted. And so far, he's got 23 receptions, 211 yards. And so he is basically at this point, this is week 12. Yes, he's got, several more games to go, 4 more games to go, or whatever, 5 more games to go. But this is not a 9.2 yard average, two touchdowns in there. You want to see more out of a guy that's on the field as much as he is. I'd like to see him bounce back. The other solution that I have in mind is, to be quite honest, I wouldn't mind seeing MVS opposite Allen Lazard and Davante Adams in the slot from time to time. We have seen Adams in the slot. I like Davante there. I'd like to see more of that, and it would get some more playmakers on the field, because I think there's one thing you can't call Geronimo Allison right now, and that's a playmaker. I mean, he might be called that because when he does make catches, they tend to be important ones. He tends to catch some critical first downs. But that's, your slot receiver oftentimes is that kind of possession, 6-7 yards, move the chains guy. So I want to see more out of him. Who else did I have on my list? Jimmy Graham is the other one, and Jimmy Graham has seen an uptick. I'm not going to go through all of his stats because he's kind of my second guy, because he's been playing better. He's been blocking better. But like to see him get in the end zone. I think he's got, 3 touchdowns right now? I might as well check it. And, so for right now, his receptions, he had three in the Bears game for 30 yards, 10-yard average, long of 16, and, of course, had the only touchdown. He disappeared in the Vikings game, 0. I'm trying to think if he was injured there. I think he hit the injury list in there somewhere. But, again, then against the Eagles, 6 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Cowboys, 3 for 41. But then, you're seeing his numbers not up there. The Chargers game, 4 for 17. He came to play. He was one of the few that came to play. But, again, a guy that you want to see have a handful of catches. You want to distribute that ball a little bit more, and you'd like to see more touchdowns in particular. The 3, with the way he started against the Bears, I thought he'd have at least 4 or 5 by now. And that was an off-schedule throw, remember. That was one of those When the play breaks down, he's in the end zone. Rodgers was trying to point one direction, just had to throw it to the open spot, and Jimmy Graham made the catch. Now, his other touchdown, one of the other touchdowns we remember is only had the 3. You remember he had to reach way down for that ball. That was really low and away, and it was a well-caught ball by Jimmy Graham. So we got to give him credit when credit is due, and people have said he can't block. That's not true. That never has been true. However, it's not his forte, and early he was not good at it, but he is really coming into his own as a blocker right now. But I'd like to see him, get in the end zone, 6'7", red zone threat. You want to see him bounce back. If he does, I think that's a great addition to an already kind of locked and loaded Packers offense now. So offensively, I think those are a couple of guys that you really want to see, bounce back. Now, another one, of course, I've got MVS on the list because this is a guy that I think, again, especially if you're considering maybe Allison doesn't bounce back, getting Davante Adams in the slot more often, that's going to put MVS on the perimeter opposite Lazard, Kumaro, and I think that could be a really electrifying wide receiver group. Regardless, I think one of the soft spots in this offense is, our second wide receiver right now is not that good and is not a very good second wide receiver. It's a lot of people say it's Allen Lazard. I think it's going to still be MVS, but Allen Lazard getting the bulk of the catches, he doesn't really scare. I mean, he's a big 6'5", 220, whatever he is. He's a big guy. He's a big kid, but he's not, as a second wide receiver against top flight defenses, he's not really going to scare anybody. Davante Adams scares people. And MVS's speed at 6'4" is scary fast, 4.3 speed at 6'4". So there is the potential has been there, and we saw when Davante Adams was out, we saw some of these guys really kind of perform. The offense kind of come of age without Davante Adams, the wide receiver group kind of come of age. However, then as soon as Davante Adams comes back, what happens to these guys? We want to see these guys perform and be scary good because defenses are going to commit extra resources to Davante Adams out there. And when that happens, guys like Allison, guys like MVS, and I'll add Lazard and Kumaro into that, have to perform, and they're going to get more targets. Of course, this is, again, an offense that can target we can go 21 personnel and target the tailback coming out of the backfield with Danny Vitale, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Jamal Williams, Danny Vitale. And we've seen Danny Vitale and Jamal Williams split out wide to the perimeter. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and there are only so many balls, but what you want to see is one of these secondary wide receivers. You have Davante Adams and kind of everybody else. Now, if that's Allen Lazard, I would agree that next guy right now is Allen Lazard. If it is, I'm fine with that, but you want to see Lazard become an impact player, an impact second wide receiver, because there is potential in Allison at the slot position. But if it's not, then I've got MVS next on my list, and that guy can go ahead and take the mantle going into a playoff run without a doubt at 6'4" with 4.3 speed. Defensively, I got Blake Martinez first. Defensively, if there's one soft spot in this defense, it's that inside linebacker. So basically, I have both inside linebacker. I have Blake Martinez and whoever's next to Blake Martinez. When we're in base, when we're truly playing out, whether it be a hybrid in Ibrahim Campbell, whether it be Oren Burks, BJ Goodson, one of these guys, keep in mind, and I keep referring back to Frank Zombo, who had the Packers needed him. He ended up getting a sack in this 2010 Super Bowl. We need one of these guys. Martinez is still continuing to produce. Make no mistake about it. He is, in 2016, he had 69 tackles. 2017, he hit the pages. 144 tackles in 2017, 144 tackles in 2018. He's already got 102 tackles, and I didn't look if he still leads the league today because, we've had our bye week, so he's probably dropped out of that, but has been the league leader in tackles. Production is there without a doubt. So he's got 102 tackles already. And is on pace to break his own record of 144. He has one sack, but that sack, again, was the first sack of the season for the Green Bay Packers back in the Bears game, week 1, and has not shown up in that area of the stat sheet. He's got a nose for the quarterback. I think one of the things that we're seeing is he's kind of being committed more to a traditional ILB, a guy who in a 3-4, a guy who is going to, your front line, in particular, your 1-0 technique is going to take up 2 blockers, and that frees up your inside linebacker to fill A gap, B gap responsibilities. And that's basically what we did. Now, last year, we didn't have any pass rush. We were trying to generate it in multiple ways, and Blake Martinez was one of the ways we do it. I would like to see it come back. And I think he had the one in the Bears game, and I think at that point, Pettine was feeling out the defense, and he saw that, we can get Za'Darius and Preston Smith can do so much. But listen, Blake Martinez is never going to be a good coverage guy. So what is he now? I mean, he's got the potential to get to the quarterback, get quarterbacks on the ground, or at least get in their face. I think we need to use him in that capacity. And, you can have basically, if it's a base defense and you've got Oren Burks in there, you've got somebody that can cover. But of course, that always comes with the risk. And we have had our struggles. We've had our struggles against the run. I think we got to take care of that right now against the 49ers in particular. But I'd like to see Blake Martinez used in some pressure looks again. Because listen, if teams are watching tape, he's not a guy they're going to have it circled in red ink in terms of pressure packages right now. But he is very capable in that regard. I mean, he was second leading tackler last year, which at 5 tackles is still bad. I mean, it just speaks badly of the defense overall to some extent. But as an inside linebacker, that's not bad at all. All right, so in the Bears game, 7 tackles and then that 1 sack, 2 assists. Then he jumped in Vikings game, 13 tackles, Broncos, 12 tackles, Eagles, 15 tackles. He came up to show. Showed up to play. And I wanted to make this comment about Geronimo Allison. Geronimo Allison kind of seemed to fade in the games where, we struggled, where the teams that we were really would have needed him in. Blake Martinez is not that way. The Eagles, 15 tackles. Cowboys was a game that we kind of ran away with early, 8 tackles. So his tackle's a little down. Now the Lions game, we ended up winning that one, 5 tackles there. Raiders game, 16 tackles and a forced fumble. The Chiefs game might be one that, he only had 7 tackles and 3 assists in that one, but the Chargers game, he had 12 tackles, 7 assists. Panthers game, 7 tackles and an assist. This is a guy that's performing. We just like to see him get more aggressive. And the defense overall, I'd like to see playing more downhill. Now, I have said this. I have a theory that Blake Martinez burst back onto the scene in this 49ers game because Kenny Clark comes back to form. That Panthers game, 7 tackles, 1 assist was not one of his best games, but I wouldn't be surprised because I think Kenny Clark is stealing himself for a Super Bowl run, and this kid can play now. He's very young. He's been dinged up. He plays a very violent position. Defensive tackle is a very violent position. But this guy, Kenny Clark, is going to be really important moving forward, and if Blake Martinez takes a step up, just think what that can do for a defense that's already playing better. I mean, we've, torn out our hair, pun intended, about, the amount of yards we've given up, the way that we've, failed to stop the run. But one thing we have done is we have kept teams out of the end zone. If this team can keep the 49ers out of the end zone at the clip that we have been doing, this Packers team is going to beat the 49ers. All right, so there's a couple guys I want to see bounce back. And, of course, it's basically a wish list. It's really what it is. You've got to see these guys perform. However, in the case of Blake Martinez, he had the hand injury. That might be part of it. And I didn't see really his production. I mean, against the Chargers, 12 tackles. And Geronimo Allison has not been dinged up, has not been on the injury list that I know of, that I remember. And certainly nothing significant. Blake Martinez, that's a significant. You're an inside linebacker and you got your hand wrapped. That's significant. But offensively, I think getting David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga back healthy, the 2 veterans, guys that have kind of been there and done that. They've been to playoff games. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere. They're going to have this team ready to go. Aaron Rodgers is going to have this team ready to go. Matt LaFleur, I think, has a good game plan in place. He's done really well so far as a rookie head coach. He has done a phenomenal job, and you got to credit Aaron Rodgers for executing his offense. And he's going to have a good one going up against a former mentor. So they kind of know you inside out. But I commented this morning, nobody's saying that LaFleur knows Shanahan inside and out. Who knows Shanahan better than LaFleur out there? What coach right now knows Shanahan better than Matt LaFleur? Probably. So again, the Packers spending time during the bye week to key in on their tendencies with a view toward breaking them at the right times might be very key, in particular in, that first set, that 15 to 20 scripted plays that the Green Bay Packers are probably putting in. I don't know. I've never heard what number Matt LaFleur does. I know Coach McCarthy did less. LaFleur seems to do a more sort of standard number, and has done just an absolutely great job. And one thing I did want to comment, you look at, again, that 49ers versus Cardinals game, a game in which the Cardinals should have won. And I don't think necessarily did anything crazy to give that game away. A receiver falls down, you end up going down. They were at least looking at taking it to overtime. But the scoring for the Cardinals in this game, 9 points in the first quarter, 7 points in the second quarter, 3 points in the third quarter, 7 points in the fourth quarter. They distributed the scoring all across the board. The 49ers, 0 points in the first quarter. This is against the Cardinals defense that is not that good. 0 points in the first quarter, 10 points in the second, 7 in the third, and then 19 points, including that last crazy play in the fourth quarter. So that tells me, the defense can't take their foot off the gas, neither can the offense. However, offensively, if the Cardinals can score 9, we should be able to score 10. If the Cardinals can score 7, we should be able to score 14. If the Cardinals can score 3, we should be able to score 7. If the Cardinals can score 7, we should be able to score 10 again. And this is the potential. And I believe they were playing away anyway. I don't actually know it. I'm pretty sure this was in Arizona. This is going to be, sure, a playoff atmosphere. The defense played really, really well a couple weeks ago against the Seahawks, got a lot of strips, fumbles, forced a lot of fumbles, but that is against the Seahawks. Basically, Russell Wilson is their offense. And this is Aaron Rodgers. And actually, this is not just Aaron Rodgers. This is Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Danny Vitale. This is Devontae Adams. This is David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga. This is Corey Linsley and Elton Jenkins now and Billy Turner. It's a big difference. This is an offense the like of which this team has not yet seen, I believe. And you add to that the fact, and I mentioned this morning, the way LaFleur talked about this offense, that we have not yet hit on all 4 cylinders. We have not yet played 4 quarters of good football in all 3 phases. He is unconvinced that this team is where it needs to be. And I love that because I agree, number one. Number two, if this team, especially offensively, defensively, we saw some really exciting stuff week 1 and week 2. And if that came back, the word that comes to mind is championship. Offensively, even if the offense just kind of does what it's been doing, but offensively, you look at a team that can split out Jamal Williams and Danny Vitale and have a couple of wide receivers, a couple of perimeter guys that, you could have an MVS and a Devontae Adams, MVS at 6'4", 4.3 speed, and then Devontae Adams, who's got the best off the line footwork in the league. And yet we can go empty backfield, but we can also go 21 personnel with a big guy like Mercedes Lewis there and pound the ball. But then if you go 21 personnel, either one of those running backs, no matter what the mix is, can come out of the backfield and catch. And Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback with this line. This could be a special offense. It has taken a while to get together. But keep in mind, if this offense clicks and Matt LaFleur continues to do such a good job of finding matchups and exploiting matchups, this is a team that is not, we talked about it early, we had kind of that 27-point range for a couple of games. And we felt like we were hitting that, like it was a ceiling. And we felt like this team, you look at it on paper, this team should score 30. Now you look at it on paper, and if this team hits on all cylinders, they should score mid-30s to upwards of 40 points a game. Because we stalled out quarters at a time, and we stalled out halves at a time early in the season. And 4 quarters of football, and then you add to that, if the special teams improves, then your field position improves. If J.K. Scott improves and has a better second half, quote unquote, of the season, and returns to the form he had in weeks 1 and 2, our defense is going to have a good time against opponents that are going to continually be fighting to run 80-yard fields out there, and that is going to wear them down. and the defense is going to thrive on that. And then the offense, conversely, is going to have shorter fields. I really think the potential is here for a serious run, and I would love to see it start with the 49ers. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I have yet to see it. I believe in Matt LaFleur in terms of, Aaron Rodgers, I believe, talked about it, that his attention to detail is off the charts. So I think where Mike McCarthy he worked hard. He was a hard worker. There's no doubt about that. Nobody can deny that. However, Matt LaFleur is committing himself to the detail work that I think started to get lost under Mike McCarthy. And Aaron Rodgers has bought in. He's loving this system. Defensively, we've got a former head coach running the defense. This is a great benefit to Matt LaFleur, especially as a rookie head coach. But offensively, I think moving forward, this is potentially one of the best offenses in the league. That goes back again to that second and third wide receiver, I think is what we're missing offensively. Inside linebacker, I think, is what we're missing defensively. I don't think I mentioned my honorable mention for players to take a step up on defense. That's Darnell Savage, but this is the thing. Darnell Savage is a rookie. That's why I'm not going to put him on this list. You've got to expect a couple of not so good games out of a rookie, regardless of their athleticism and how high the Packers are on them. Darnell Savage, again, I think by virtue of the way he jumped off the page, kind of like Jimmy Graham in that Bears game, him not having quite the electrifying performances down the road going into the bye, kind of has people down on him, and he is grading out. Since he's come back from injury, he's not grading out as well. But again, this is a guy that if an opportunity comes his way and he has the wherewithal to seize it and the upfront guys are doing their work, that's when that Darnell Savage at 4.3 speed is going to really come in handy. And also, again, being a rookie, he's gotten to take a week off. How important is that to come back on week 12 off your bye? You've been injured. You've had to spend some time. He is going to be fresh going into this game, and he's going to be fresher down the stretch, having, to be quite honest, taken a couple other games off with the injury. So now it's going to be how he plays. Does it get into his head? Does it get into his mind so that he doesn't have to think out there and he can just trigger, react, and start playing football and having fun out there? And he's got good coaches. Tramon Williams out there as well, I'm sure helps him out. I know he's a safety, but Tramon Williams played safety the bulk of last year. So these things are shaping up quite well for the Green Bay Packers. Again, it's just I can't, and I know you guys feel it too. This has been the longest bye week ever because we're coming back to a 49ers team that then we watched them lose to the Seahawks. We know they've got to play like 3 games in 13 days or whatever it is. And we know that and of course we lose to the Chargers in just grandiose fashion. That's not, sarcastic way to say it, of course, but we lose to the Chargers and then we're kind of like, I don't know what this team is, and then you're kind of trying to factor in, did they just lay an egg that day? You come back to the Panthers, you do a relatively good job, win 24-16. And again, that was again, Kyle Allen, 28 of 43 for 307 yards and a touchdown in that game. I mean, he didn't look terrible at all. Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback to some extent, but his deep ball is not fantastic. Again, his ball security. If this team can get to Jimmy Garoppolo, he will cough this ball up. He will throw a pick. And turnovers against the Green Bay Packers now, that's something that the defense hangs its hat on or has, but it's also something that offenses, if you make that one mistake and you let our defense get that one turnover, Aaron Rodgers is going to hurt you. And it's not going to be a pretty picture for some teams moving forward. Let's go back, and I just wanted to check on that. So, the discussion after the Panthers game to some extent had to do with, the run game again with Christian McCaffrey, 20 carries for 108 yards and a 5.4-yard average, and the touchdown. But again, to some extent, I think Mike Pettin is kind of keeping things in front of him. He is – I know he doesn't want to live in that realm too long, though. Yeah, we'll let you into the 20, but then we're going to tighten up. Well, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to hold serve on that either. So potentially this defense taking a step up, getting healthy, getting some work done with the cross-the-hall studies or the self-scout, I think is what LaFleur calls it, takes a step forward. If this defense takes a step forward, watch out because I think the offense is primed and ready. they have showed from time to time they can score in all kinds of ways. They can score on the ground, through the air, on the perimeter, up the middle. We can have success. It just depends on where you're weak. We're going to find that weakness and we're going to exploit it. Look at the Cowboys game. Aaron Jones, 4 touchdowns. And we have not used our tight ends as much as I thought we would. That is still in play if we need it. If this defense gives us too much trouble, crossing routes across the middle to Jimmy Graham and jump balls in the end zone are still in play. I think they are still in play. Don't think that, Matt LaFleur has forgotten about the tight end in this offense. I don't think he has. So, I believe we'll see. I'm not sure how Pettine is planning to handle the run game, but I don't think he's going to suddenly change everything for it. But I do think what's going to happen is we're just going to get healthy and play a little bigger and just make it tough up front. And they do not have a good offensive line. They do not. So if we get some big guys in there and our gaps sound, we should be able to hold serve. We saw against the Panthers, we won both lines of scrimmage. And of course, that's going to be important for any game plan, is to win the line of scrimmage. Packers team stops the run. Jimmy Garoppolo has some weapons out there, but if Kittle is missing, that hurt them badly. And they were missing Emmanuel Sanders also for that Seahawks game. Sanders, I believe, re-injured his ribs. He is again on the list and did not participate in practice. So a dinged up team that is, again, we understand that perspective. Nobody cried for us. I'm not going to cry for them. What we're going to do is go out there, exploit whatever weaknesses we can, and take this team down. So the Packers play for pretty much all the marbles, or the pole position. It's not all the marbles yet, because there's plenty of football yet to be played, plenty of opportunities for the Packers to stumble if they do not remain focused. But this is a big one for the Packers to get to the top of the NFC with a very good opportunity to stay there, frankly, with the Packers playing, division rivals, and then a couple of teams that are, frankly, I think I've described them as they just don't have it together. Washington doesn't have it together. New York Giants don't have it together. Now, does that mean we can overlook them? Oh, it sure doesn't. They're all NFL teams. You can't overlook any one of them. But, compare that to the 49ers. I think the 49ers drop 2 or 3 more games. And the question is going to be whether the Packers, if we take this one here, can really put themselves in position to win. And I'm torn. And after this game, I'll know. I fear the Seahawks more than the 49ers to some extent right now. If the 49ers go down to the Green Bay Packers, listen, the Seahawks have traveled to Wisconsin, to Lambeau Field, a whole lot. It's not going to make nearly as much of a difference for them coming to Lambeau as it would for the 49ers. Now, if they get healthy, that would be the question, because by the end of the year, they may return to health. It's a pretty scary team when they're all there. I mean, Kittle's scary, and we've had trouble with tight ends. And he may play in this one. I almost would rather have him play and see what we can do with him playing. But again, we'll see what happens. Will probably be a game day decision by the way it looks. So you can't overstate the importance of this game. And yet it is, the attitude of this team has been to go 1-0. We have been able to do that 8 times and have failed at that twice so far this season, facing a very good 49ers team, but a team that I think is starting to regress to the mean because of their schedule. And this is a Packers team that has faced opponent after opponent with fantastic defenses, started to come into its own offensively, struggled from time to time defensively. We've had our struggles against the run. We've given up a lot of yardage, and we've had trouble with tight ends, especially, leak plays, tight ends. We've got a young rookie on the back end to some extent, and Blake Martinez is no cover guy. But this is what the bye week is for. Get it ready, fix those issues, figure out who you're going to focus on, figure out who you're going to try. You're going to try Oren Burks so that they can cover. They're going to stay with Ibrahim Campbell. Who's going to be in there in those 3rd and long situations? How are we going to better stop the run? Are we going to play bigger? Or are we going to stay fast, get trigger to the gap faster, and tackle more soundly where guys aren't carrying us forward? Lighter guys can be carried forward. Do we get some bounce back from some players? I mean, again, think about it. If Blake Martinez suddenly comes back, he's getting 13 tackles, but they're tackles for loss or right at the line of scrimmage, this defense changes dramatically. If whoever's next to Blake Martinez, which was my cop-out pick, plays better, likely in coverage is where that's going to end up. Just think how much better this defense could be if we start handling tight ends better. And offensively, you get a second wide receiver, third wide receiver, or even if you're talking about Geronimo Allison, just our plain simple slot wide receiver. And he starts playing at a really high level so that, defenses have to kind of circle him too. I don't see Geronimo Allison necessarily with that ceiling, but I do see MVS with that ceiling. I do see Jimmy Graham still with that ceiling. And I think it has more to do with jump balls than anything else right now. Jimmy Graham boxing out in the end zone should be a scary proposition. He was dropping balls all last year. He's had a couple of them early this year that were a little bit, frustrating to watch. But again, the potential is there. Jimmy Graham, I think, when he is just playing football, when he's just being natural, he's got good hands. Sometimes it seems like he's trying way too hard, and that's when his hands just get really hard. And I think he's starting to kind of come into his own. He needs to hurry because we need touchdowns out of that cat down the stretch. Tight end position bounce back. And again, we can continue to project too because Robert Tonyan is likely healthy and going to be back. Well, he is healthy as far as we know. Jay Sternberger got some serious reps now, and they've seen what he can do. And they've seen his athleticism on the backside blocking that, guys like Mercedes Lewis and Jimmy Graham anymore do not have. But we've also seen an uptick in Jimmy Graham's performance in terms of tackling. It's pretty exciting, again, with that asterisk that says I've got to wait and see it all to come together. But if it comes together, I think we're all going to be hard-pressed to deny ourselves the feeling that something special is happening in Green Bay. So we'll see. It's going to be a big test for the Green Bay Packers, a young team still, but a team that brought in enough veteran presence to make sure the young Bucks are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I love this mix of players. I even, guys like Oren Burks, BJ Goodson, Ibrahim Campbell, these are guys that we're going to need to perform if we're going to make a real serious run for a Super Bowl bid. But the Packers have it all in front of them and their hand on the wheel right now. So we'll see what happens Sunday night at Levi. I always want to say in San Francisco, but it's not. It's in something else that I can't remember, and I should be able to. But Levi Stadium. And we're going to find out a lot about this team. Again, I've kind of labeled some of the games along the line. This, to me, is the watershed moment for this Green Bay Packers team. It's Sunday Night Football. It's under the big lights. It's prime time. The nation is watching. This isn't localized like our Lambeau Field, like our regular season, noon games. Some podcasters have talked about hate the late games, and I know the players don't like them as much. I frankly absolutely love night games. They're just more exciting to me. Under the lights. And then you look at this situation. The nation is going to be watching. This is a Packers team that since the Chargers game, been able to fly under the radar a little bit. Nobody's talking about MVP for any Packers player. And yet here we go. We can really, truly burst on the scene, and everybody's going to know who the Green Bay Packers are if we go out and perform well and execute against the 49ers. I do think we get the W if we execute. And I think we need that at least that one turnover to be the difference maker. But this is definitely as exciting as it has gotten. The Monday Night Football game against the Seattle Seahawks was the game of the year so far. This has the potential to be an NFC championship preview in warm weather. And it has the potential to supersede that Seahawks game as the game of the year so far. Now, again, I don't want it to do that. I want this Packers team to go out and execute in the way that I truly believe now with what I've seen thus far, the way that they can, especially offensively. If they hit on all cylinders, you're going to be hard pressed to find a team that has the necessary tools to stop this offense. So I have said, I am on record saying, even though conventional wisdom would say this is going to be a close game, this is going to be a barn burner, I've said that, but I do believe this Packers team has the potential to beat the 49ers by double digits, looking at their injury situation. I know we're playing away. I know we're playing out west. I don't think it matters. I really don't. I think this team has gotten it together. Whatever went wrong, they've figured out. Obviously, everybody on the team kind of knew what went wrong. And Matt LaFleur is not going to talk about it, and neither am I. but they've changed their plans. No surprise there. And I think they're going to be fine that way. But again, it's all going to come down Sunday night. So, all right, folks, I will let you go for now. I appreciate you dropping in. If you're listening to this recorded, should be coming out to you Thursday night, or you may be listening to it Friday morning. And I will also make a podcast version for you. I hope you enjoy it. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Go Pack.